Hey guys, this is Josh with Rocky Mountain, and this is our first impression ride review of the Maverick Sport XRC. All right guys, so this is the 2019 Can-Am Maverick Sport XRC. Now, if you've been following along with us, you may know that last year I had the opportunity to review the Maverick Trail, and earlier this year I had the opportunity to go up to British Columbia and review the Maverick Sport, and I've been impressed with both machines, and now we've got the XRC model. Now, all three of those machines are based off of the same main chassis, which is in this new Maverick line. And the XRC edition is unique because it is their new rock crawling edition of that Maverick lineup. Now here at Rocky Mountain, we do a lot of rock crawling in our side-by-sides. We have locations like Moab and Sand Hollow that are fairly close, and even locations like we're at today. And so for Can-Am to be releasing a purpose-driven machine specifically for rock crawling is really exciting. Now for this review, I'm not going to go over all the nitty-gritty details of this machine. If you are looking for a review based on the ergonomics of the cockpit and the power and some of those things, definitely check out our review of the Maverick Sport that we did earlier this year, because that'll give you the base of this machine and really what's at the heart of it. But for this review today, I'm going to be going over the very distinct and unique things that this thing has that make it that XRC model. So now let's get into some of those details and the features that are unique to this and really make it stand out. So starting with aesthetics, you've got a carbon black, cobalt blue color scheme. I really like the way this looks. It really stands out. The cobalt blue is unique to the XRC models that Can-Am has. And so when this thing pulls up on the trail, you're gonna know exactly which model it is and what it's capable of. Moving to the inside, you've got nice X-branded bucket seats with the cobalt blue accents that look really great. And then another thing that's unique to the inside is the dash. So you have a 7.6-inch display in this machine, which gives you more viewing of everything that's going on in the machine. They give you a lot of different options, and I really like the way it displays and how it moves and articulates with the steering wheel when you adjust it. Now moving on from there, let's talk about the protection that this thing offers. So you're gonna get a front bumper as well as a rear bumper, and underneath you're getting HMW rock sliders, skid plate, as well as HMW A-arm guards on front and rear, which is really just meant to help get through those rocky terrains and not have to really worry about what's underneath you, and you can slide over those obstacles. Now moving on from there, the base of this machine is they've upgraded to 30-inch Maxxis Liberty tires, which are more of a truck style tire. They have a really sticky compound and are really designed for that desert off-road rock crawling, which is awesome to see. They put them on 14-inch cast aluminum wheels that look awesome. Now I will say that one thing I think is missing here is some beadlock wheels. You know, being the rock crawling edition of this machine, I would have liked to see beadlocks so that you have the option to air down your tires if you need that really aggressive traction in that aggressive terrain. But I do like that they're giving you 30-inch wheels. That just gives you that extra clearance as well as the added performance that comes along with it. Now moving on from there, let's talk about the suspension. So with the XRC model, you're getting the Fox Podium 2.5 shocks with QS3 clicker adjustments. And with this suspension, you've got almost 15 inches of travel, and with that QS3 clicker adjustment, what's awesome is that it's an on-the-fly clicker adjustment and it's toolless. So basically you have 3 different settings to set your compression for your suspension, so you can just adjust it for the terrain and what you need it for. Now moving on to the suspension components below that, you've got beefy raised A-arms in both the front and rear, and those give you 15 inches of ground clearance across the machine, and the stance of this machine is 64 inches wide. Now, the last thing I really want to talk about that really makes this thing the XRC model, like a lot of the things we've talked about so far are upgrades that you could really do to almost any model, but what makes this one really unique is the Smart Lock front differential. Now, Can-Am has had their Visco lock for a while now, and it really works well for most terrain, but people have found that it's a little bit hesitant, especially in the really tight rock crawling stuff, and that's where the Smart Lock front differential comes in. Now this is something that's completely new to the industry, and so far it's got really good reviews. What it does is it has monitors and sensors all over the machine that sense your engine speed, your tire speed, your throttle position, as well as your steering. And it takes all those considerations in to give you a customized locking front differential to give you what you're wanting for the terrain. So before the technology like the smart lock differential came in, you either had an open differential or you could have a fully locked differential. With an open differential, you know, you're maybe getting a little bit of hesitation and not as much traction as you want. With a fully locked differential, you're getting all the traction you want, but it's hard to steer. So with the smart lock differential, what it's really made to be is be dynamic for what you need. If you're in really tight stuff, it's going to be more locked and use all those sensors to sense that you need more traction, but also still allow you to steer. So when you're on the trail, it's meant to give you more of a dynamic, nimble, still be able to steer feeling while you're going fast. Now, another thing with the smart lock is it has different driving modes. So you have a two-wheel drive, a four-wheel drive, and a fully locked front differential that you have toggle switches for. And when you're in four-wheel drive, that's when your smart lock is enabled. And there's actually two different modes for your four-wheel drive. There's a rock mode and a trail mode. Now the rock mode is supposed to give you more of a locked differential and really kind of a tight rock feel and set those parameters that way. And when you're in trail mode, it's a little bit more open. And again, it gives you that more nimble feeling while you're out going a little bit faster. So what we're going to do now, we're going to get in this thing, we're going to test it out and really just see if it works the way it's designed and let you guys know what we think. Okay, so we just finished up riding this thing for the last few hours out here in Little Moab, Utah. And this really has been a great place to test out how capable this thing is in the rocks. Now, with Can-Am's intention of building this thing for rock crawling, and it was really built for that King of the Hammers style racing and riding and terrain, I think they hit the nail on the head. From the differential to the tires, to the clearance, to the power, and just the different driving modes. Like, it really just does what you want it to do. So first off, let's talk about that smart lock differential. So the first thing I did to really test that out was to run it through all its modes. We had put it in two-wheel drive, we put it in four-wheel drive, as well as four-wheel drive with the front diff lock. Now with the front diff lock, it did exactly what it was supposed to. You know, locked up the differential, we had traction. There definitely was an impact on the steering through some of the obstacles. It wasn't too substantial, but you could definitely feel it. And, you know, just gave really great traction. It was a nice option to have. Now, let's talk about four-wheel drive with that smart lock. So it has the rock and trail modes. And for most of the obstacles, I put in rock mode. And it really just does what you want it to. It gave pretty much the same feeling as having the front diff lock, but it was easier to turn and maneuver through the obstacles. Now, there was a couple runs where I put it in trail mode through the rocks, just to see if I could see the difference. And I don't know what was actually different, but it just didn't engage quite like the rock mode. And I got stuck up on a couple obstacles where I had to do it a couple times, and it just was slipping a little bit more on the rocks. And so I'm not sure exactly what changed, but it definitely showed that the right driving mode for the terrain you're in really makes a difference. We ran it in trail mode over some fast terrain, and it just felt planted, it felt nimble. It wasn't really hard to turn, you know, it just did exactly what you wanted it to. And so that's one thing I'm just really impressed with. I think they really hit the nail on the head with that smart lock differential and that technology. And it's gonna please a lot of people that are doing this type of terrain and this, you know, that want that really planted feel through your front differential. Now the next thing I want to cover that I think is really noteworthy is the clearance. So the 15 inches of ground clearance and those raised A-arms and the skid plate and all the protection under there, it just works. So all day today, I never once hit the skid plate or the A-arms. And that was just a really nice, like, peace of mind aspect of riding in this is I didn't have to worry about it. The clearance is enough, and even with it being higher up in the cockpit, it's comfortable, it feels nice and low, and you feel planted. And you know, even if you are in terrain that you maybe have to worry about that, you've already got all the protection on the A-arms and the skid plate to have you covered there. Now, a really noteworthy part is the A-arms in the rear. Now, you may not get as much travel as a machine that has trailing arms, but I never had to bump up against a ledge and wait for traction. You know, if you've ever ridden in a machine that has trailing arms, a lot of times it's skid plate, trailing arm, and then the tires, and you're, you know, hoping that you slide far enough up so you get traction, and that just wasn't the case with this. I just hit right up to the tires and had traction all the way up. Now, on the topic of traction, the Maxxis Liberty tires did awesome out here. As you can see, there's a little bit of snow, and so there's a little bit of water on the obstacles, and I still had traction throughout all the obstacles I tried and never once got stuck. And I think this is an awesome option for a stock tire and is worth wearing down until you get new tires and maybe want to try something different. Now, another thing I'd like to talk about is the Drivetrain and Power. So you have the 976cc 100 horsepower Rotax engine, which works awesome. It has multiple different driving modes. But what I was most impressed with was the Qrs Cvt Transmission, and more specifically, the low gear. So in that low gear, through all of the obstacles, it never once felt like it was slipping. It was just right on. It engages really quickly. There's even a couple times where I was in high gear and I forgot, and I was going through an obstacle, and it just engages so nicely that I didn't even really notice until I got to the top and realized. So I think Can-Am has really nailed that CVT transmission, and it just really works well for the wide variety of terrains that this thing's capable of. So those are my initial thoughts after riding this thing. Now, as far as the sport UTV market goes, I would say that this machine is probably the closest to a do-it-your-all, do-any terrain that I've ridden in so far. I think right off the showroom floor, you know, you're getting that ability to climb rocks and do that slow technical stuff, and it still rips out on the trail. You know, with the adjustable suspension, you really can hit sand whoops, fast whoops. You can do turns really well with that smart lock differential, and it just handles really well. Now, the last thing I want to cover is Can-Am has the X3 XRS Turbo R version of this, and it has the same colorways, and it's basically the big brother of this machine. And so you might be asking yourself, okay, well, what's the difference? Where's the benefits of this, or where's the benefit of the X3? Now, one of the biggest differences is going to be that the X3 is 72 inches wide, while this one comes in at 64 inches wide. Now, you're going to have to judge that for yourself of what's going to be better for you. I actually really like the 64 inches wide because I felt like it was more nimble and it was easier to maneuver in the tight technical stuff. So especially if you're doing rock crawling and you want to be able to have a little bit more options as where to maneuver, then this might be a better option for you. Now, the other aspect is that the X3 has those trailing arms, like what we talked about before. And I think that the design of these, if you don't need the suspension travel of the X3, and you're wanting more maneuverability and even more capability, especially with like rock crawling and ledges, the A-arm design is going to be optimal because you're not going to get hung up on the trailing arms. You're going to be able to get up ledges a lot easier. So that's definitely a factor to consider. Another factor that you may want to consider is the price. So the Maverick Sport XRC comes in about $21,000, and the X3 Turbo R version comes in about $28,000. So there is a pretty substantial price difference. And if I were to pick one, if you want my opinion, I'd probably go with the Maverick Sport based on how it performed today and how well it got over the obstacles and had that great clearance. That's something I'm really looking for, and I like how nimble it was. The X3 is awesome and has incredible suspension travel, and either one is going to be awesome off the showroom floor. And I think Can-Am really just nailed it. So if you have this machine or you have the X3 version, make sure and comment below what do you like about it, what do you maybe not like. Also, if I missed something or there's something I didn't talk about you want to know, make sure and comment below. We are going to get those questions answered, and I'd love to start the conversation. Also, make sure and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're always putting out machine builds, machine reviews, how-to videos, and product spotlights to help you guys out. And also make sure and check out our website for parts, apparel, and accessories for your machine. I'm Josh. Thanks for watching.